This whole coronavirus crisis began for us in Cienfuegos on the 10th of March when we checked out of Cuba. At the start, we weren't affected at all, being in the middle of nowhere with absolutely no one around. But then a Cuban military vessel told us we had to go right there and then. No question about whether we had food, fuel or water, just go now. So we sailed to the Dominican Republic at an average speed of less than 2 knots for the next 9 days, only to get kicked out the very next day. We then sailed back to Haiti, only to get kicked out 2 hours later. We learned an important lesson: no sailing to the mainland. So we sailed for an isolated island group southeast of Jamaica. On the way we ran out of gas for cooking, but we were in luck when we arrived with plenty of wood on these tiny little islands for a fire. It was completely deserted, so I thought we could stay here until the world became normal again. But fishermen started turning up more and more each day, which made Margarida uneasy, being the only woman around for miles and miles. So we set sail once more, this time to a very remote reef, 272 nautical miles off the Nicaraguan coast. On arriving, we were lucky to find a tiny cay with some wood for a fire. We had finally found a place that seemed too remote for anyone to even bother about. But the Colombian Coast Guard turned up a day and a half later and we had to go. But we didn't know where we could go, so we did the only thing we could do. We sailed from place to place and hid out on tiny reefs in the middle of nowhere and waited for the world to become normal again. The only anxiety we had were of bad boats wanting to play pirate with us, but the chances of that happening are tiny. After all, we are near a small island in the middle of nowhere, 167 nautical miles from the Nicaraguan coast. But sometimes shit happens. Margarida, we've got to go. Margarida, there's a boat stop behind us. Why does this keep happening to us? But this time I thought it was a false alarm because I've had the radar watch over the last few nights on and it's been getting triggered, I think, by behind us there are reefs and the waves pile up and I think that's triggering off the alarm. So when I heard the alarm late at night, I just simply turned it off. I went out to hang a piss anyway. But it was right this time and there was a boat coming and look, it didn't look official. There were no like green lights, red lights, or an overhead white light or a backlight, because we've had a couple of tankers go through and they're lit up like Christmas trees. But this one, it just had a glow like I'm colorblind, so it could be red or orange or something like that. And it was coming past the reef. And I watched it for about an hour. I didn't wake the poor Margarida up again because we all know what's going to happen.
Well, I did wake up, but I don't bother anymore because it gets triggered by the swell. So I just roll up again and try and fall asleep.
That's my girl. So I followed it for about an hour. It moved quite quickly past the reef, but then it started slowing down and it pulled up station right behind us. And I'm thinking, this is crazy. And then the dim light went dimmer, but I could still faintly see it. I don't know how far it was behind. It's just too hard to judge. But this didn't feel right to me. And so
you woke me up.
Yeah, damn straight.
And I thought, oh, if he's waking me up, this must be serious, because he had a scary face. He was afraid. And I said, oh no, this is bad juju. And then he said, we need to move. I said, it's middle of the night. It's dark. We cannot see anything. He said,
doesn't matter.
We're moving.
I had a bad feeling,
and I
people.
said, okay, we're moving.
The key to surviving this was speed. Less than 5 minutes later, we were exiting this reef in complete darkness. Crazy, absolutely crazy. But I wasn't about to stay here. I had my safe sector on my compass for exiting. I didn't dare put on the chart plotter. It was way too bright. If indeed they were about to play pirate with us, I needed to be sailing away before they could get their small boats in. Unless they were extremely lucky, they wouldn't be able to find us in the dark. Their small dim light ironically gave me enough reference to stop oversteering and hitting a bloody reef. Thanks, pirates, for that. Alright, we're up and sailing, we're away. The other boat hasn't moved, so maybe maybe they anchored.
Quite frankly, people, I am shocked. Shame, pirates, shame. I mean, come on, fellas, you've got an institution to uphold. You used to be ruthless, now look what's happened to you. What, you've had 3 or 4 months off, and that's an excuse to become rusty? I mean, El Capitano, you don't have to have a strategy meeting down below. Things haven't changed. You got to get into your little dinghies as soon as possible, come out to our boat simultaneously and silently, jump on board with your machetes and go, ah! It will scare the shit out of us. We'll be throwing out all our money. Well, you might be a bit disappointed in that regard. We've only got $11.70 left. But that's the gist of it. You don't go have a 10-minute strategy meeting down below. Mario, you go right. Paolo, you go left. What utter nonsense. Meanwhile, the booty, us, we do the ultimate getaway and sail right past you. The pirate guy on watch, I feel sorry for him. He'll be walking the plank. Very disappointing, fellas. Very disappointing.
1.5 hours later and we are rounding the lighthouse. So it seemed all good, but we did have a small problem. To get to the next reef, ideally it's an overnight sail, so there is plenty of time to get into the reef. But our hand has been rudely pushed, so now we have to average more than 7 knots to get in with enough light. Otherwise we'll have to heave to behind the reef until morning. And with Margarida being sick a full day, I really wanted to avoid that. And the wind is at 40 degrees with the predicted east sou'easter. It's going to be a long day. I suppose I could have asked the pirates for an extension, but it was dark and I didn't want to interrupt their strategy meeting. You should always be polite, people. There's my little seasick helper.
Seems that no matter which way we go, we're always going to windward. So we're going south, and the winds turn east-southeast. And that's why we're punching into it again.
But we were between 7 and 8 knots all day, so we may just make it today yet. And then towards the end of the day, I saw breakers on a reef. We were going to make it after all. And then I saw the island, and it had a big radio tower on it. Clearly, this was a military island, and we were too close now, so I had to radio in. Hello, we could be in real trouble here.
But before we deal with the military island, we have some good news. Through the InReach, we got information that we could do our quarantine at anchor in Bocas del Toro, Panama.
We're saved, people. And Panama is officially closed, but through the good efforts of Tampa Dad and Stuart, who's stuck in Shelter Bay, we now know definitively that we can do quarantine at anchor. This is great news, and we're heading in that direction. Now for the military issue. We could be in trouble, but I thought if we put the lovely Margarida's voice on the radio with guys stuck on an island, they might want to help a damsel in distress. So Margarida got onto the radio.
And as soon as I said the name Freedom, they said, hold on, please.
And now I was a bit worried. I thought, hang on, we only just got on the radio and hold. Now, San Andreas, I think, is only 3 or 4 hours away by quick warship. And I thought, what, are they calling for reinforcements? But a little while later, they got back to us and they knew everything about us. I was Captain Peter. They didn't need a last name because there was only one other boat sailing around this area. And they knew the boat Freedom. And then, here was a bit of a funny thing. He said, what do you need? And we said, well, look, we really would like a rest stop. And he said, okay, but you've got to promise us that it's only for one night. And we did. And then he said it 2 more times. And then we had to promise another time. Now, I don't know what he means by that, people.
God, I love the Colombians. They are human beings in a tight spot. And now I discover they have a damn good sense of humour. Now, ideally, we ought to drop sail and motor and weave our way into the reef to get to a nice flat spot. But unfortunately, we need every drop of fuel the Colombians have given us, so it's tacking all the way and keeping a sharp lookout. The wind noise here is terrible. I mean, more terrible than usual, so I'll try and translate. Blah, blah, blah. I must admit, it's not my best effort. I think I'm saying that it is a bit nerve-wracking coming in over a reef at 8 knots. We've already found 3 shallow section and they came up so quickly that I couldn't even film them. Yes! That's clouds of rust from the chain. Yeah, we know, people. It's on the list, but it's a very long list.
Margarida, we have to go. We've got to go.
Okay, we're underway, so I got time to explain. Alright, we have to cover more than 300 miles in a day and a half, maybe a little bit more, which is going to be about 8 knot average. We've never done 8 knot average. What's going to happen is we're just going to get hit by some big thunderstorms down there. But that's okay, because if we're offshore, that's right. But Chris Parker, he only does the forecast 3 days out of the 6 or 2 days out of the 6. He didn't do the forecast that I was relying on. Then he came on the Saturday. Now, I didn't listen to the Saturday forecast because we were actually sailing down here. I just recorded it. Anyway, I listened to it this morning. I wanted Margarida to have a good night's sleep and, you know, just chill out and all of this. And I listened to it this morning and he goes in more depth. Well, apparently there's this low coming off Kentucky. All the winds are sucking into it, but that's on the North Caribbean. And the western and the southwestern, it's going to go dead calm and it's going to be big squalls and big thunderstorms. We can't hang in a reef or off a reef, hang off the arse of a reef in big squalls, especially when there's no wind, because that means if the squall forms behind you, it can push you back onto the reef. The best we could do is at Serrana Bank on the north, there's that lagoon. We could get in behind the lagoon, although the southerly fetch is like 4 or 5 kilometers, probably more, 6 or 7 kilometers. So if we get hit by a southerly burst, we're in trouble. But that's not the real problem. The chances are that happening are small. But the issue is there's one sand patch, but there's tiny little bommies all over the place. So even if we went into the lagoon and we dropped anchor and we let out 66 meters of chain, so as the wind veers, they pick up all these bommies and you don't have the full 60 meters. Now, if you've noticed over the last year, our chain's getting rustier and rustier and it's losing layers and layers of metal. So eventually, if you've got the chain tangled up along all the reef, you've only got 20 or 30 meters, and if you get a fair chop and it's bang, 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 it'll snap the chain and we're in trouble. And if you remember, these squalls can be up to 60 knots for 2 hours. I was talking to the Jamaicans, he said, this time of year, man, don't go here because the storms come from the west. Because you've got to understand that less than 100 miles that way is this the Gordo Bank, which is this huge area of shallow water, warm water, and they develop huge storms, and they will come and they will wipe you out. And he said, no, you don't want to go there, there's no protection. So even if we did go to Serrana, we've got the issue with these little bommies, so it's not safe. So the wind's going to die in 2 days, and then it's going to be heavy thunderstorms on the second day, so tomorrow. So we've got enough fuel to motor, but we just need to get as far south as possible because otherwise we're just going to motor more. So it's not dangerous in that respect, it's just dangerous to stay up here. Very easy day sailing. Up until about an hour ago we were averaging a bit over 7 knots, so we've done quite a good run today. On the forecast we're going to probably be about 50 or 60 miles short, so maybe 10 or 12 hours short of our destination before the predicted thunderstorms and squalls. But let's hope we miss them anyway. I mean, it doesn't really matter. The worst for us now is to be in absolute calm because the wind's supposed to drop. And then we'll be in swell and we'll go beam on. We've had 2 weeks of that, as you know, and that was just terrible. I'd much rather 35 knots for an hour at a time here and there. It doesn't matter which way it's pushing me. At least we'll have a sail filled and the boat will be steady. Anyway, let's see what happens with tomorrow. All things good, it's going to be another day and a half, I think. So unfortunately, it's at night time when we're going to get the squalls, and the moon is only going to make its appearance at about 5-ish in the morning. So it's going to be dark night. So that's going to add to the difficulty. So probably a sleepless night tomorrow night. Now without the mainsail up, we pendulum a whole lot more. I can already feel the marbles moving around. Well, at least it isn't going to be like the 9 days at the start in episode 1. We're about 90 miles from the closest land, and this little sparrow, I think it's a sparrow, I'm not an expert, has been hanging around. How the hell does it get out here? Anyway, I'm just amazed. I mean, if he's caught in a storm, I mean, there was a storm last night, but far out, he's been flying from, what, hours and hours, what, 12, no, it's 4. It's like more than 12 hours he must have been flying for, just trying to find some salvation. And then he finds us, and then now he's sitting at the top, and we're rocking around like a fart in a pickle bottle. Well, that's our type of salvation. Yep. He obviously hasn't seen the blog, but he'll get used to it. Check out that. Well, the waves are squared up, so we're not rolling as much, so it's pretty well pushing us along. We're only doing 4 knots because I just don't want to push the motor, because anything higher in the revs, well, we know it overheated, and we broke down in Cuba right at the start, or the day before. The Cubans said, "You gotta go." I don't think it's going to be squally at all. With all the high cloud, I think it's sort of shut down all the convective stuff, so I think we're going to just have a pretty well benign night. We just got a motor. Well, we got plenty of Colombian fuel, thanks to the Colombians. I still think they're the nicest people in the Caribbean. We just got this for another, what, 25 more hours, because we're barely making 4 knots. I think we've got a slight current against us. Anyway, hopefully it's an uneventful night. Hopefully the motor keeps on keeping on. We've still got the bird here. Don't tell Margarida, she didn't like birds that much. She thinks they got coronavirus. I got in trouble with the pigeon in Cuba because I wanted to save it. We won't go into that. I'm not going to show the footage of that. It's quite alarming. Anyway, it's all good.
We're back to Panama again, and hopefully have good nights of sleep in the same bed and access to some yummy food.
What about all the crabs and lobsters? There's no pleasing wives, people. What about the saying, happy man, happy plan? Margarida said she'd never heard of that one before. Can you see land? What's it feel like? This is 70 days away.
It feels like good because we're finally going to be one stop and not be always constantly anxious that we might be kicked out the next morning or at the end of the day. It just feels good. But the other side of the coin is we're going to be like in jail for we don't know how many weeks or months, and it's bloody hot. It's like the sweatiness that we're not used to it anymore because it's so humid. It's not going to be fun. Estamos todos relajando.
Time to check in by radio, so they don't point guns at us. But in true Panamanian style, the Panamanians didn't even man their radios. They let other people sort out the troubles, so a Brazilian private yacht did their job for them and directed us in. Maybe it was a good thing because no one could chuck us out. They didn't even know we were there.
We have Brazilians!
So what happened? What happened? You're speaking Portuguese?
Yay! There's two sailing vessels here. They are from Brazil. Manuela from Brava. I think we heard that name before. So he gave me all the information where we should enter, where we park the boat, and as soon as we park it on the spot that is designated for the quarantine, we should hail to port captain, if not for the aeronaval, and then everything will start rolling as according it should be for the jail time.
But the main thing is, we're getting let in! Whoa!
And they were saying on the radio, anything, they have like a really nice community here. They're going to help us with everything they can, bringing food, water, whatever, and then after the 14 days, well, we still don't know what's going to happen, but I'm sure, I said I will talk to him later to see how things are, so.
Well, that's a relief. The biggest worry was Margarida's beautiful smile and her anxiety over the last 2.5 months. But anyway, we're getting let in.
We got food. The bottle was given away so we can have gas.
What's gas?
It's a thing that comes up and if you put fire, it gives you flames.
Really?
So you can cook.
Oh. And I'm most happy about the pineapple!
We got papaya, mangoes, bananas, apples, carrots, tomatoes, lemons. We can be able to do mojitos without ice, but we can do it. We can manage. We have meat, ginger, bread, eggs, and look what I asked. The fridge is gonna be on bacon.
Fridge is on.
And I asked for chicken too, and I asked for chicken.
And then quite suddenly, Margarita's smile miraculously reappeared. So there was not a cloud on our horizon at all. But then...
A week gone by for our quarantine and two Spanish boats were kicked off with no apparent reason, so we might be the next ones.
Yeah, Margarida was really, really worried. I didn't really care. I just wanted to get fruit and then go back to the Colombian reefs. But we had some issues. And then when our quarantine ended and we started seeing the port captain and getting all the papers ready, we had a problem with the immigration. They wouldn't stamp our passports. Now, I didn't think it was a big deal because I just thought it's just the time at the moment. They're not stamping the passports because they don't know what's going on.
They were not issuing visas to anyone. So that was the reason. So we were in the limbo. We were not officially in the country. The boat was, but not the human ones.
Not the human ones, that's right. So, but we thought, okay, we've done our quarantine. We could just go on land and do some shopping. And we did. And we went on land and we saw some stuff and it was quite good. And then the immigration lady was riding past us on her bicycle and she stops and she goes, "What are you doing off your boat? You don't have a stamp. You can't be off your boat." And we said, and then I went, "Well, could we have a stamp, please?" And she said, "No." Oh, well, how do you get around this, people? And then she said, "Oh, why don't you visit me at my office?" And we said to her, but you're not in your office. And she said, okay, call me an hour before and I'll go to the office and we'll sort you out. And then the next thing we got was, you can only be granted 15 days. You need to fix your boat, get food, and you need to leave with your boat in 15 days.
Because then a few days after the primary time we saw her, a new communication came off saying the immigration will start issuing visas again slowly, depending case upon case. So it looked like each immigration officer would do what they think would be
in the best interest of the country. In actual fact, they are unbelievably lazy and they don't even read any communication. And then I wish I had this filmed, but Margarida went in with all the information on the iPhone, and it was like in a boxing ring. This other lady, immigration lady, was huge and Margarida was tiny. And the immigration lady, no, we can't go over 15 days. And Margarida goes, yes, but look at this. And she reads it, she goes, oh, I haven't seen that before.
Originally, we have, if you enter Panama, you have the right to have 6 months to stay in the country.
Normally.
I took all the decrees and the laws, everything. I did print screens and saved the links just because I knew it would be like this.
Yeah. So the lady would say, oh, yeah, but this is what I'm... And Margarida would go, pow, kapow! This is the real communication. She'd read it and she'd go, oh, shit. And then she'd go, oh, hang on. Oh, it's trying to say face. Yeah, but it's this. And Margarita would go, no, look down line 4. Kapow! And this lady, she was like teetering on the ropes, people. Bang, bang, bang! Knocked her for a 6. And then at the end of the session, this lady, she was exhausted. Margarita didn't even work up a sweat. And we got 6 months.
Now we're in.
Yes, we're in, people! Bloody hell, people, I have to stop it right there. Have we stooped that low? Are we becoming like the other fake sailing channels where they yell Mayday when they run out of mayonnaise? No, this is sailing to freedom. This is real. Let me give that another crack. I know, the end was a bit dodgy, but I'm not the only editor around here.
If you liked the episode, give us a like and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you get notifications every time a new video comes up.
And also, people, just like I said in the live stream, try and drop our names wherever and whenever you can on all the other sailing channels in their comment sections. Don't copy the link and drop it because it'll probably go into the withheld bin. So just write the name and say, oh, you thought that was a good episode by Sailing blah, blah, blah. You wait till you see Sailing into Freedom's episode 5, the coronavirus series. That is awesome! So... good on you, people. Nothing but quality.